They say the world ends with a bang, or maybe a whimper. They never tell you it might end with a single, quiet click. I pressed the button. I watched the progress bar crawl across the screen, a sickly green snake devouring the last remnants of my old life. Every byte uploaded was a piece of my soul cast into the digital void. This was it. The truth. The files that would expose the Aether Directorate and their monstrous Project Elysium. I expected sirens. I expected the sky to crack open. Instead, there was only the hum of the servers and the frantic pounding of my own heart in the suffocating silence of the safe house. The silence didn't last. It was shattered by the splintering of the door, the heavy thud of boots on the floorboards below. They were here. Aether's hounds, sent to sanitize their mistake. Me. I grabbed the drives, the redundant copies, the only things that mattered now. Smoke was already beginning to curl under the door, the acrid smell of accelerant catching in my throat. They weren't here to arrest me. They were here to erase me, to turn this house and everything in it to ash. The world I was trying to save was about to watch me burn, live, and in high definition, another ghost in their machine. I barely made it out. A broken window, a fall that should have shattered my leg, and then the rain. A cold, merciless downpour that washed the soot from my face but couldn't cleanse the fire from my mind. I scrambled into the shadows of a nearby alley, my body screaming in protest, and watched my sanctuary become an inferno. The flames licked at the night sky, a funeral pyre for the man I used to be. The man who believed that the truth was enough, that if you just showed people the monster, they would believe you. I clutched the drives to my chest, their plastic casings cold against my skin. The fire was a spectacle, but the real war had just gone cold. From the darkness, I saw their silhouettes against the blaze. Faceless, remorseless. They moved with a chilling efficiency, securing the perimeter, ensuring nothing and no one escaped the blaze. They were looking for a body. My body. But I was already a ghost, slipping through the cracks of a city that was about to betray me in a way I never imagined. The button had been pushed. The signal was out. Now, all I could do was run and wait for the world to wake up. I was wrong. The world didn't wake up. It just rolled over and hit the snooze button. For 48 hours, the world had the truth in its hands. My leak, Aether's internal documents, project schematics, damning communications, was live. It spread through the undercurrents of the net, a whisper of revolution. I watched from the anonymity of a grimy internet cafe, nursing a lukewarm coffee, my face hidden beneath a hoodie. I scanned the news feeds, the forums, the social networks, waiting for the tidal wave. I was waiting for the outrage, the investigations, the collapse of the Directorate's carefully constructed public image. I was a fool. I had given them a weapon, and they had turned it into a meme. The wave never came. Instead, there was a ripple, a brief, curious splash in the endless ocean of digital noise. The official story came down from on high, swift and decisive. It was a sophisticated smear campaign, they said, the work of corporate rivals or foreign agents. The documents were declared elaborate forgeries, the audio logs, deep fakes. Pundits and experts, many secretly on Aether's payroll, appeared on every screen to calmly debunk the conspiracy theory. They dissected my life's work with condescending smiles, painting the whistleblower as a disgruntled, unstable employee. They made me a phantom, a crank shouting into the void. The public consumed it. They ate it up. It was easier to believe the lie. It was more comfortable. Project Elysium, a system of neural control that would enslave millions, was repackaged as a revolutionary leap in human potential. My warnings were buried under an avalanche of corporate PR and algorithm-driven denial. The world didn't want a complicated, terrifying truth. They wanted a simple, reassuring lie, and Aether was more than happy to provide it. I saw my face on a news report, a grainy photo from an old employee file. They called me a person of interest in an act of industrial espionage. They were hunting me, but they had already assassinated my credibility. Sitting there, surrounded by the oblivious chatter of the cafe, A cold resolve settled in my bones. If they wouldn't listen to the truth, they would be forced to see it. If a whisper could be ignored, I would have to give them a scream. The world didn't believe me because the world didn't want to. Fine. I would do more than just expose Aether. I would dismantle them, piece by piece. I would tear down their server farms, crash their networks, and burn their empire to the ground. They had turned my truth into a ghost story. Now, they were about to be haunted. 0 Day was no longer just a plan. It was a promise. The first ghost I reached out to was a man named Quincy. We had worked in the same division for 3 years, separated by a thin cubicle wall but worlds apart in our roles. I was a systems analyst, a cartographer of Aether's digital kingdom. Quincy was a network security specialist, one of the gatekeepers. He designed the very firewalls I had spent months learning to circumvent. He was brilliant. He was paranoid. He had a deep-seated cynicism. I was banking on the hope that it was actually a profound distrust of any system of power, including the one that signed his paychecks. I sent him a single, untraceable message. The reply came 3 hours later. A single character. A period. It was exactly the cautious response I expected. I told him where to meet. An abandoned subway station beneath the city's facade. His silhouette emerged from the gloom. He looked more haunted than I felt.
Quincy, VO, filtered. Was it you? The leak? Narrator. I nodded, the simple gesture feeling heavier than any word.
Quincy paced, internal investigations, polygraph tests, entire teams on administrative leave. Trust had evaporated. Suspicion filled the directorate. He'd seen fragments of the truth himself. My leak confirmed his nightmare. Joining me wasn't treason alone. It was suicide. I didn't sell heroism. I laid out the truth of the machine we built. It would not stop. It would consume everything. Stand by and be complicit, or become the ghosts that bring it down.
Quincy, VO, filtered. What do you need? Narrator. The first ghost had answered the call.
The second ghost was harder to find. Her name was Anya Sharma, and she didn't officially exist. She was a consultant. Her specialty was architecture. She designed the secure facilities, server farm layouts, power grids. If Aether HQ was a fortress, she had drawn the blueprints. To tear down the castle, I needed the woman who'd laid its foundations. Quincy knew how to find her. Anya was behind the counter. Unassuming. Tired eyes. Ink stains on her fingers. At Quincy's introduction, recognition flickered across her face. Then fear. She led us into a small apartment above the shop. The walls were covered not with shelves but with schematics. Anya had left the directorate 6 months before. She'd been tasked with designing a fail-safe containment system. She realized what she was truly building. It wasn't to protect occupants. It was to seal them in. It was a tomb. The realization broke her. She walked away. My leak dragged that knowledge back into the light. I didn't need to persuade her. I needed only to give her a chance to undo her work. I showed her the drives. I explained 0 Day.
Anya VO Whisper. The heart of the system is the central server core. It's 3 sub-levels down. The cooling system is its vulnerability. If you disrupt the coolant flow, narrator. The architect had just given us the key to breaking her fortress.
We had the digital gatekeeper and the physical architect. We still needed a way to move through the machine without being seen. We needed new faces, new identities, new access credentials. We needed a forger. Quincy knew a man, Silas. He had a reputation in the digital underground for being the best. We met him in the back of a noisy, neon-drenched arcade.
Silas, VO sneering. You want to go to war with the gods? Narrator. They are not gods, they are men, and their kingdom is built on code. Code can be broken, code can be rewritten.
I told him this wasn't just about revenge. I placed one of the encrypted data drives on the table. This is my payment, I said. Everything you need to cripple their finances. But you only get the decryption key when we're inside. It was a gamble. He weighed the risk against the reward. The allure of personal vengeance was a powerful motivator.
Silas, VO, Cold. You'll need new credentials, level 4 clearance, and biometric masks. It will take me 36 hours. Narrator. The Forger was in. The ghosts were assembled. The stage for 0 Day was almost set.
The night of the infiltration was unnaturally still. A thick, oppressive fog blanketed the city. It was perfect. Quincy, Silas, Anya, me. 4 ghosts preparing to haunt the machine that created us. No rousing speech. No talk of victory. This was a one-way trip. Silas handed out the credentials. Anya traced the route on the blueprint. A seldom used maintenance access point. Avoid the main thoroughfares. She pointed out blind spots. The precise timing needed to bypass patrols. As the time approached, finality settled on us. We were no longer planning. We were doing. The longest night had begun. The only way out was through. The service tunnel was exactly as Anya had described it. Silas went first, disabling the initial sensor array. The gate was open. We slipped inside one by one, the heavy metal door closing behind us, that sealed us off from the outside world. The first checkpoint was a biometric scanner. This was Silas's first test. My heart hammered against my ribs. I held the forged ID card to the reader. A wave of relief, so potent it almost made my knees buckle, washed over me. Silas had delivered. One by one, we passed through the looking glass, into the belly of the beast. It was a stark, soulless place, a monument to cold efficiency. Twice, we had to flatten ourselves into maintenance alcoves as security patrols passed. They were human, but they moved like automatons. They were looking for threats, but they weren't looking for us. Our destination was sub-level 3. Anya led us to a service elevator. Quincy pried open the control panel, his datapad feeding the elevator's primitive brain a loop of code that told it everything was normal. The descent was slow, each clank and shudder amplifying the tension, dropping deeper into the machine, level by level, closer to its dark heart. Doors opened on sub-level 3, the hum intensified, a deep, resonant thrum, vibrating through the floor and up into my bones. The engine room of the Aether Directorate. We split up. Anya, locate the primary coolant junctions. Silas, build our exit strategy. My job with Quincy, reach the central core terminal and trigger a catastrophic failure. A maintenance drone whirred past. We froze. The drone paused, head tilting as if it sensed something amiss. After a moment that stretched into infinity, the drone seemed satisfied and continued on its patrol route. We finally reached the central core, an isolated chamber encased in reinforced glass. Inside stood a sleek black monolith. This was it, the heart of the machine. Quincy got to work on the maglock. He was engaged in a silent, high-stakes duel with the system's defenses. While Quincy worked, I kept watch. I kept hearing things. A faint footstep, a distant voice, a whisper. The feeling of being watched was overwhelming. I saw a flicker of movement.
I'm in. The maglock on the glass chamber hissed and clicked open. We had to move fast.
I wouldn't do that if I were you, Elias. This was the moment. The point of no return.
It was a voice I hadn't heard in years. A voice I had mourned for years. Alaina. Alive. The whispers in the core had not been in my head. A ghost from my past was standing between me and 0 Day. The world outside the glass chamber dissolved. There was only the face on the other side of the reinforced pane. Alaina. The woman I had mourned for years. Elias. Please. You don't understand what you're doing. My own hand, still holding the drive, trembled. Every instinct screamed at me. This was a trick, a deep fake. How? The word was a dry rasp, torn from my throat.
They faked my death, Elias. They told me you were gone, killed in a corporate raid. They used our grief to control us both.
The pain in her eyes was too real. She took a step back. Another figure moved out. It was Director Thorne. Thorne, VO. She is telling the truth, Mr. Crowe. We have been custodians of her safety. Now, You have a choice to make. Shut it down, or she will pay the price for your rebellion. The lie was gone, replaced by a truth more monstrous than I could have ever imagined. Thorn held up a small, sleek datapad. A simple room. A small boy. He had my eyes. The breath left my body in a ragged, painful gasp. The room tilted. The impossible equation was laid out before me. He is safe, Elias. I made sure of it. I traded my freedom for his. He doesn't know you. But he is alive. A son. A child I never knew I had. Conceived in the life before the fire. Quincy, VO on comms. Elias, 5 minutes until the cascade is irreversible. You have to decide now. We are out of time. The countdown wasn't on a screen anymore. It was beating in my own chest. There is another way. Help me get him out. We can disappear. Just let this go. Let them have their machine. She was offering me the one thing I thought I could never have again. A reason to live. All I had to do was surrender. All I had to do was let the world burn. Thorn watched me. He had orchestrated this perfectly. He had fought my soul with love. He had found the source code of my humanity and written a virus of his own. The choice was simple. My son lives. Millions are enslaved. Or I save the world. Or I condemn my own child to an unknown fate at the hands of monsters. My choice was not between my family and the world. It was between two different kinds of prisons. I finally understood. Alaina was wrong. There was no running away. You could not build a family on a foundation of tyranny. You could only fight. Or you could submit. My hand stopped shaking. I met Director Thorn's gaze. He saw the shift in my eyes. He had miscalculated. He had assumed my love was a weakness. But he failed to understand that true love is not about possession. It is about liberation. I would rather he grow up an orphan in a free world than a prince in a digital kingdom of slaves. Alaina, VO screaming. No, Elias, don't. I turned away from the glass. I faced the humming black monolith. The choice was made. My finger moved to execute the final command on the drive. I was a ghost, and I was about to show them what a ghost could do. I pressed the button. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then the hum of the core changed, stuttering like a dying heart. The blinking lights on the server racks began to flash erratically. One by one, entire rows went dark. The falling sky had begun. The cascade was faster and more violent than we'd ever anticipated. The live Elysium demo feed didn't just glitch. It tore itself apart. Then pure, dead static. We had detonated a logic bomb in the central nervous system of the entire Aether network. The physical consequences were immediate. The kingdom was collapsing from the inside out. Through the glass, I saw Thorn shouting into his comms. The game was over. He had lost.
Elias! The structural integrity is failing. We have to get out now. Silas has a route, but the window is closing. The machine was dying. We had to escape the collapsing corpse before it dragged us down with it.
This way, Quincy shouted, pulling me from the chamber. The once sterile server farm was now a vision of hell. Survival was the only imperative. We rounded a corner and came face to face with two Aether security guards. Quincy deployed the EMP. The guards' advanced tactical gear shorted out. We pushed past them without a second glance. The cost of our victory became tragically clear. A section of the ceiling had collapsed. And under the rubble, I saw a familiar gray maintenance uniform. It was Silas. The forger who had given us the keys to the kingdom had paid the ultimate price. There was no time to mourn. Anya simply grabbed my arm and pulled me toward an emergency access ladder. We scrambled up the ladder, emerging into a different service corridor. We were three now. 3 ghosts escaping a tomb of our own making. We had brought the giant to its knees. But as we fought our way toward the surface, a single, agonizing question echoed in my mind. I had sacrificed my son's safety for the world's freedom. But as I fled the wreckage, what kind of world would be left when the ashes finally settled? and who would be there to live in it? We made it to the roof just as the first explosion tore through the lower levels of the tower. We stumbled to the edge, 3 ragged silhouettes against a sky stained orange by the fires below. The rain had started again. It felt like the world itself was trying to wash away the sin of what we had done. The signal had been sent. The world had the truth. But the cost was written in the smoke billowing into the night sky. On it was a single, frozen image, the face of my son sleeping peacefully, oblivious to the war being waged in his name. The timer on our virus had hit 0. But looking at his face, I knew my own personal countdown had just begun. The question was whether I could save the one person who mattered from the ruins. Silas was gone. Alaina was in the hands of a monster, and my son was a ghost, a hostage in a war that was far from over. 0 Day was not the end of the story. It was just the end of the first chapter. The rain continued to fall, washing the soot from the air, but not the blood from our hands. I clutched the datapad, the image of my son a burning ember. Who walks away from the ashes? Maybe no one. My name is Elias Crowe. I exposed the truth. I started a war. And now, I have to go get my son. The real 0 Day was just beginning.